Okay, so welcome to episode 0 or the pilot per se of the Offstage Podcast. I am your co-host Martin Perez, and I'm joined by...
I am Vanessa Markov.
Your other co-host.
With a V.
With a Markov,
yeah,
right?
It starts with a V and ends with a V.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. What do you call that? A palindrome? No, that's not a palindrome. I'm probably using the wrong word.
I have no idea. I didn't know there was a term for it.
Anyway, what is this podcast about, Vanessa?
That's a really good question. What is this podcast about?
All right, so I guess the main gist of this podcast, I reach out to Vanessa and say, hey, do you want to start a podcast where we talk about like advice for musicians and the music industry, and mostly about like, I feel like the kind of core message that we want to go to is like breaking the status quo, right? Like you get so many artists out there that is like release music, tour, and everyone's doing the same thing.
Pretty much.
And it's like when there's 200 bands doing the same thing, it kind of gets like, how do we break that mold? What to do, what to focus on, and how to get good ideas going. And of course, like discussing like a wider range of topics that also other people are suggesting.
Yeah, exactly. We want to help bands not do the same thing over and over and over again and wonder why they're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to do is a little bit different from like, here's a list of, ideas and examples. We could use examples, but if it's already been done, it's too late.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And we'll talk about like overarching ideas, and every episode will kind of have its own topic and stuff. But since this is a pilot, this episode is going to be a little bit more free form. We're just gonna be talking about like just the whole, like our whole ideology in general, and then every episode will be more focused about specific topic or specific news item, and just kind of unravel those knots one by one. But for this time, we're just gonna introduce ourselves and then talk about our opinions in the music industry, so you get a little bit of a sense of like who we are, what we do, and kind of how our brains work when they are working. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself first. Can I go through it a little bit?
Like, not tonight.
Not tonight. Who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Who I am, what I do.
So what's your current role in the music industry?
Okay.
In the blooming city of Toronto, Canada?
That narrows it down a bit.
Yeah.
I am an artist manager.
What does an artist manager do?
Oh, it depends on the artist manager. It depends on the band, too. Because I'm telling you, I've done everything short
of playing. What are the parallels between babysitting and artist management?
Everything. I have so many friends who have toddlers, and we sit down and we talk about our lives, and it's like, wow, we're really not that different. It's true. It's true.
It's the same skill set.
Yeah, it's not to say that most of my artists are not toddlers, but they, the responsibilities sometimes, like, man, I say this, I have an amazing intern right now who wants to get involved in artist management, and one of the first things that you need to know how to do is to really deal with the bands on a personal level, because you're dealing with people, right?
Yeah.
Just like bands don't always know how to treat themselves like a brand, and they just focus on the music and the product. A manager has to look at the band as well and take care of them as people, because that's where the creativity, that's where the art and the product is coming from.
Yep.
Right? And I think, even right down to the bands themselves don't realize how much they are a part of the product they're creating, which, I can go on and on about this as a topic, but back to what I do. Artist managers, my God, we do everything. And again, it depends on the needs of the artist. So, you can be spending the majority of your time just being a therapist and, talking artists through crises or self-doubt or their own insecurities. Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of that, but I mean, artists are sensitive people. That's why they create such beautiful music.
Like inside band conflicts and creative control and all these things that
parents
bands have to get over.
There's so many different things. School and jobs, and you have to be like a therapist and a cheerleader and like a parent at times, and just the overseer of all things, like everything that isn't thought about, you have to look at what they're thinking about, what they're taking care of, and be able to adjust yourself to that. Because I've had bands where it's like I have to do so much thinking for them in some area, and then they take care of the rest in another area. And then with another artist, it's completely flipped the other way around.
Right.
So basically, a personal manager can do anything and everything. Like I've been everything from, a graphic designer and, a merchandiser and a bio writer and a branding specialist and a marketer and a social media manager and a strategist and an accountant and there's so many different things that I've done. It really depends on the artist.
And you do all this under the same umbrella
Yes.
of Black Lamb Management. Is that the full name of it?
Black Lamb Music.
Oh, music.
Yes, Black Lamb Music. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
A wide scope.
Yeah, exactly.
A wide scope.
It's the music of the Black Lamb.
Yeah, exactly. The traditional music of the Black Lamb.
Yes. And that's a pretty new thing too. I've only been with Black Lamb for about a year now.
But you've been doing management for...
Yeah, independently.
Right?
It started off, very, very briefly. I started off as a music journalist.
All right.
About 8 years ago. And, the first thing, and a lot of journalists, especially in their first little while, it's like, I was like, oh, I'm writing music. When do I get to interview Green Day? Like, I can't wait to get to those big acts. But when it actually got to the point where I was interviewing, shooting, and reviewing major acts, it's rewarding to do that and to be able to put that in your repertoire. But what I personally really, really loved was getting to know those acts that were just beginning and just developing.
Because at that point, you're telling a story that already happened.
Exactly. You're just another
person talking about Green Day.
Exactly. And even the acts themselves, I've been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of wonderful people, but I remember talking to, Aaron Bruno or Ziggy Marley or James Black so clearly, but they don't remember who I am.
Exactly.
Whereas the relationships I've built with developing acts is what led to, having a background in marketing just like you. I wanted to apply some of the things that I learned. I saw that there was this hole missing where these acts just didn't know what to do with social media or branding or just basically how to sell themselves and sustain their business.
Sometimes
so that's
they don't
how
even have the time to or the headspace to. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of them already know what they want to do. They just don't really understand or have the skill or the time to do it. Other bands are just they just keep showing up and playing the same awesome songs over and over and over again. They're just like, well, what happened?
And then you have 5 dudes fighting over creative control when one of them could be doing marketing, the other one could be doing merch, the other one could be doing scheduling for tours. But no, everyone wants to play the solo in the goddamn fucking single. And it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine if you had a group of people building a house and everybody just wanted to take care of one thing? It's
everyone wanted to do the master bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to put in the piping. It's like, what about the foundation? Somebody needs to put in the foundation. We need someone to pour the concrete. We need someone to build the walls.
What's the point of having an awesome guitar solo if no one's going to listen to the goddamn song anyway?
Exactly. There's so many moving parts to it. That's why it's a business. So anyways, I think that's just a very basic, so from journalism, working independently with bands, getting to know some people in the industry that I had a lot of respect for, and 8 years later, here I am. You're a marketing guy, but you also do a lot of cool things in music. So what's your story, Martin?
So I am Martin Perez. I am a musician slash, music festival organizer slash founder. And that's what I do related to the music industry, but I'm also professionally a digital marketer, a marketing strategist at a digital marketing agency. So I always, growing up, had a passion for music, and I was always a musician. And then I actually wanted to go to business school, to music school, and my dad said, "No, you need to do something else." And I was lucky enough to listen to what my dad was saying, and ended up going to business school because I always thought that business was super interesting, and that a lot of people weren't doing business the right way. I always thought, why are companies doing this? That doesn't make any sense. So I went into marketing, digital marketing, because I love technology. I love the internet. I'm a huge geek. I have literally a shelf full of Nintendo figurines. I love technology. I love everything that relates to it. So I was like, I can do technology and make money and have a job. Fuck yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And then I realized I could be applying all this stuff to music too, right? Because I love music. I love playing music. I love playing a couple of bands. And I played in a couple of bands back home, which is in South America. And then I moved here and I started playing in bands here too, because I could just not stop not playing in bands. I had to be in a band. It was like part of my being. If I wasn't in a band, it was like,
what am I doing with my life?
It's like being single forever. It's like, you know what I mean? Eventually you want to find a band and be like, all right, I'm doing this now. And then one day, you know, there was this year in Toronto where, you know, Vans, the Vans World Tour wasn't coming, Riot Fest wasn't coming, and these are like basically the two biggest really like alternative rock and punk rock festivals in the city. There's really no other alternatives, at least for that genre. Mm-hmm. We have like Velt, but that's electronic music and stuff. And me and my friend Zach, who is in a band with me, we were like, let's start our own rock festival. And that started Stranded Fest, which is the festival that I created with my friend. And we basically just do shows around Toronto featuring local acts. Doing it, the original idea started with local bands covering bigger acts and all that kind of stuff. And the growth that the festival has experienced, it's kind of nuts. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes we don't believe it. You know, we sold out a very popular venue in Toronto called Lee's Palace 2 years in a row, and we do shows every other month with like theme nights and stuff, and do parties. We're doing all this we're really getting really creative and just doing kind of crazy shit, and just really focusing on that event management, word of mouth marketing, and just kind of getting the word out there and growing this really cool community of local musicians. And now we get like local Toronto bands playing out in front of like sold out venues where everyone's singing along, and they get to play their own songs too, so they promote their own material, and just really being all about that hustle and marketing. And it's a lot of stress, a lot of emails. You only get one shot. Like you either have a great night or those 4 months of planning go down the drain.
Oh my God, it's so true. I was just talking about that because I put on an event on the weekend, and it was just like all this crazy planning for weeks and weeks and weeks down to the minute. And then it's just like, you know, I was with my team half an hour before we opened the doors, and we're like, all right guys, this is it. Like, this is all this planning, and now we're just gonna see. You have to just
do it.
Yeah, exactly. You take your hands off the wheel and just, what's gonna happen? We don't know. We've been planning for weeks, but we have no idea what's gonna happen. It works or it doesn't.
Yep. Yeah. There we go. So that's me. I'm mostly focused on the marketing aspect of music. I don't know. You know, that's why I kind of wanted to do this podcast with you, because if I felt like if I got another person that's also a marketer, it would be too like same topic-y kind of thing.
I can't wait until we disagree on something. That's going to be fun.
It's going to be interesting.
I can't wait for it.
Those are going to be the good episodes.
Yes, they are. But that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about, because it's, you know, you're talking about Stranded Fest. There's a reason why they're successful, and it's because of the marketing aptitude. And like, that's how we met, was through, I booked one of the bands I was working with on, actually two bands that one that I was sort of working with really liked, on your first Stranded Fest tour, and I was so impressed with what you did and have been watching them grow and sell out time and time again. And, you know, working with younger bands, promoting them everywhere, or going to shows and booking them at different shows and working at different venues and seeing, you know, and I wrote this in the article that I wrote about you guys, is that I'm not dissing other promoters in the city, but there's this idea that, you know, live music is dying in Toronto. Yeah. Meanwhile, Stranded Fest comes rising out of the dust and like selling out and doing this amazing thing.
With local acts.
With local acts. It's not a coincidence. It's because you actually put the time in to market it effectively. And that doesn't mean spamming the shit out of people on social media. You actually used it wisely because you understand what to do. Yeah. And that's why it's so successful. So when people say that live music is dying and they blame it on, you know, yes, bands or promoters or venues and stuff, everyone can be blamed for doing something wrong or not caring, but Stranded Fest is proof that if you do things the right way, it will work for you. Just like there are bands that I've worked with where it's like, you don't need a ton of money, you don't need an amazing record or the most different, unique hit song, and you don't need like a shit ton of money or a record label or anything like that to do something that actually hits or goes viral or, you know, makes you unique.
And it's also because, you know, I feel like a lot of... First of all, thank you for them, for the praise. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I'm buttering you up for our argument later.
Right? So you don't hate me that much later. No, but I think it's true. And everything, like, I feel like every struggle that the, you know, music industry or the local music industry to a smaller extent right now, to a smaller scope, is right now, a lot of the problem is that a lot of bands, a lot of musicians, a lot of people in the scene, a lot of bookers, a lot of venues, they see everything like one-dimensional. They think that, well, you know, the live music industry is dying. And I'm like, well, why is it dying? Who's taking your audience, basically? People who are not showing up to the show, what are they doing? Most of them, they're at nightclubs instead. Why do they go to nightclubs? Because in nightclubs, you know, every single song that they play is a fucking hit. Everyone knows every single song. It's like, okay, so what if the bands are playing the hits and they're playing every single song, and it's like, you know, and you see all these nights, like all these all these parties coming up, like very like genre specific, like Motown night, emo night, like metal night, and they sell out, and like they're just like, people on their laptops playing songs. So I'm like, what if you do like very specific nights like that, and it's like ska bands playing ska songs, or punk bands playing punk songs, or you know, we've done like a lot of different things like that, and you're also like really hustle the marketing, and that's where it all comes from. But like, you gotta, like, I think that what I'm trying to say is like a little bit of a piece of advice is start looking, expand your scope. What are people doing? Why does it work, and why doesn't it work? And it really starts opening your eyes at saying, oh, maybe I should be doing something like that. And a lot of people, I just feel like they think, well, that's not something a band would do. So, does it work?
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as it works, that's what matters.
Yeah. If it's not something a band would do, that is even more reason to do it.
Right, because, oh shit, a band is doing this. No other band has done that before. And it's funny because you were mentioning something about like, oh, you know, if everyone's doing it, it's don't do it, it's too late. And it reminds me of like, I was reading this interview with a band called Anaman and Gucci. They're from New York. They are amazing. They do 8-bit dance music with a little hint of pop punk. So they basically just hack SNESs and Game Boys and all that kind of stuff, and like play guitar and drums with that, and kind of just make music out of it.
Amazing.
Which is fucking sick. And they were talking in an interview, like, because they always promote their albums in like the weirdest, craziest ways. And they were saying, one of the guy in the band that I guess takes care of most of the marketing of the band said, if something is working, I consider it outdated. Like if everyone's saying you gotta do this to promote your album, like I consider it outdated.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still do it, but that shouldn't be your silver bullet, right? Like, you should be trying to do something else, something like crazy.
For sure. Well, that's the thing, is that there are certain, and this is where I think a lot of people get confused, is that you can be talking about the principles behind effective marketing and using certain tactics that bands have used, or any brand really has used, that make it worthwhile, and then people get stuck on the tactic rather than the principle behind it. So there's a much broader picture that, yeah, there are certain rules or principles to follow, and even then rules are made to be broken. Like, you have to look at the principle and examine it to find out what tactic's going to work for you, rather than copying a tactic. Well, it's already been done.
Yep.
You know, it's like, even, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this with Stranded Fest too, is that every single time you put on a successful event, you got to think, okay, well, now what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I got to do something more, something bigger. That's the only way that you're going to sustain something. If you do the same thing over and over and over again,
eventually it gets old.
It gets so old, which is what's happening in the industry right now, is the same bands are doing the same thing at the same clubs over and over and over again. Let's put out a flyer. Let's put 4 bands on the bill. Let's make it a $5 cover. Let's make it a 9 p.m. doors. Every band is always going to start 45 minutes late than their set, you know, and everybody gets used to it, and it gets really old and it gets really boring.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to put on a freaking big, huge, wild, crazy show every single time and top yourself, but, you know, flip the model a little bit. Try something completely different. That doesn't work. And
play shows online. Why do you have to book a venue?
Yeah.
Play a show online, an acoustic show online, and take requests and play originals and silly stuff like that. Anywhere
else, like, this is even going back historically, it's like bands used to play in coffee shops all the time, and then now people don't think, well, I can't play in a coffee shop because it's too loud. But the only reason why bands got so loud is because they started playing in bars where everybody was completely drunk all the time. So it's like, but yeah, why can't you find somewhere else to play? If you are a loud rock band, find somewhere else to play.
Yeah.
Find a field, find a house party, find a friggin' schoolyard somewhere. Like there's so many different things you can do.
Get the singer to do acoustic gigs during the day while the drummer is working on flyers, or it's like, or the bassist is mixing tracks, or something like that.
Exactly. Busk. Bands in Glasgow will hold their practices on the street.
Oh, that's
They'll
sick.
just go outside and busk, and that's their band practice.
And they make money too.
They do, exactly.
If they're good.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good kind of overall theme for this episode. It's thinking about the proverbial box of the musician. Reminds me a lot of what you were just talking about. Of like, you were there. There's this really cool thing in Toronto. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's called Kismet Thoughts.
Yes.
Really cool, like monthly music meetups of the like kind of local music industry in Toronto, and they're pretty rad. And I was doing this. I was invited to host one of these talks one time, which is great. You should always go. Just look up Kismet Thoughts on Facebook. They're great. And I was chatting about this kind of concept, like you gotta think beyond your scope. I kind of called it like bands 2.0. Like you gotta kind of upgrade, right? Like you haven't gotten an upgrade in 70 years. People are still doing the same shit the Ramones did.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the examples that I was just fishing for examples, and an example was like, because I know of like these YouTubers that started out just like recording themselves playing video games, and now they have successful music careers because that's how they amassed a following, and then they dropped an album and all the 14-year-olds loved it, right? And of course, I'm not telling you go and play a video game right now on YouTube, because that's saturated right now already. But that's the example of like, if you were there at that time, like they were doing something different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the comments that I think you told me you overheard after my presentation is like, oh, that's a really good presentation, but I don't play video games. It's like, that's not the point.
Exactly.
I'm not telling you to go and play video games on YouTube. I'm telling you, like, and I see that with so many musicians that it's like, okay, I have this really good song. What now? And it's like they just make a post on Facebook and that's it. But like, how are you gonna make it go viral? How are you gonna make it be exciting? How are you gonna grow your audience?
Exactly. And I think that where a lot of people get stuck, because even it happens with me too, when I sit down with a band and think like, okay, we got to think of a really cool way to do this. And it's that whole kind of that weird reality that if you sit down and you try to come up with a cool idea, you're probably not going to brainstorm it right then and there. And then all of a sudden you'll be driving or you're in the shower and something will hit you and you need to jump on that right away. But more importantly, I think one of the best ways, and I talked about this in my talk at Kismet a couple months later, is if you're thinking so hard about a really, really cool idea, try to change the perspective and think about the people who already like you and listen to you, or your friends themselves, and think about what you can do to delight them. Like, what is anything that I can do to either make them laugh or feel good, or just in general respond and have some kind of an emotional reaction. That alone should give you an idea that you don't have to come up with this wild, crazy, creative idea. It's just that you actually have to stop thinking about me. How am I going to get people to listen to my song and come to my show and buy my merch?
Yeah.
Think about them and then see what happens. Because if they're delighted, you build that relationship. And like, this is rule number one about marketing, is to build an emotional connection with your audience.
I feel like you're 100% right, because I feel like the musicians think mostly about what do I want my fans to do, rather than what do my fans want out of a musician or out of anyone, out of a public figure. You're gonna start thinking like a public figure or a business, and I'm always like paying attention at everything. And not only, and when I say like look for ideas, I'm not saying only look at ideas from bands. A good example, like I'm into esports. I follow esports a lot, right? And I follow the competitive Smash Brothers scene, right? And I was reading about, there was this tournament like 2 weeks ago somewhere in California, and they have these huge tournaments where everyone's playing Smash Brothers, and they have like a merchant aisle that's basically like a bunch of different people selling merch and pennants and t-shirts and art, all like video game related and all that kind of stuff. So most of the people are actually focused on playing the video game rather than going to the artist aisle, artist like zone, and just buying merch and art. So one of the guys, I found out because people were tweeting about it. One of the people who were selling merch at the tournament actually put up a TV with Smash Brothers in it. And it's like, if you can beat me, you get a free shirt. So of course, all the people were there playing Smash Brothers, and they come back to try to beat the. Turns out the guy was actually super good at Smash Brothers. He only got beat twice or something like that. It's like, but if you lose, you gotta buy a shirt or something like that. It's like, if you win, you get it for free. If you lose, you gotta buy it.
Oh my god, that's amazing! I love that.
And he had a tally. He had like a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And he said like wins, loses, and like it was all wins and like 7 losers or something like that.
Oh my god.
And people were tweeting about it because I follow these people on Twitter, and like they like that stand had a line.
Yeah.
No other stand on the whole venue had a line. And I'm like, I see that, and I was like, that's such a sick idea. And like, I write it down. I have like a little notepad on my phone where I just write down ideas, as bad as a good, even if they don't relate to music. It's like, how do you get people's attention?
Yeah.
You know, some of them are terrible. One of them is, I think it's like, bring a piñata to shows. That's a terrible idea. But like, write everything, and then, you know.
I would love to see that. Can you do that, Martin, please?
For next show, there will be a piñata.
I just want to see the lawsuit that's going to ensue when someone gets their face smashed in with the piñata pole with a stick. Yeah. Oh my god, that's such a huge liability.
I just gotta figure out what I want to fill the piñata with. Maybe Tide Pods or something. That's what the kids are talking about nowadays.
Tide Pods.
That's what the kids like nowadays, right? Here, candy. Free
That's
candy.
amazing. Beer tickets.
Fuck yeah, that would be awesome, right? But yeah, just really think about, get out of that box and start thinking about, you know, what you want to be like, what you want to represent, and when, like, you know, if your whole project, I mean, if you're a singer-songwriter, or if you're a band, a good exercise that I like to put into this kind of people is like, try to sit down and come up with a description of your project, of your band, of your musician, or of your solo project that does not talk about music. Like, what is your project about? And don't talk about music. You say like, well, we're an alternative rock band. No, you're already fucked up. That's not it. Like, who are you? It's like, well, you know, an example. I'm just coming up like with an imaginary band here. Like, we're here to, we are about baseball with your buddies at the Toronto, just going to see the Toronto Blue Jays with your buddies and getting beer and pizza and just enjoying a nice day of summer watching the game. And then your team sometimes loses and sometimes they win, and we write, you know, and like that's the feelings that we talk about, you know, that feeling of winning with your friends or losing with your friends. That's your statement. Boom, there you go.
Exactly. That is perfect. Exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
So many times I've sat down with a band trying to talk to them about branding, trying to get to the core of what their message is and who they are as people. And I say, okay, describe your band. And all they blank face, we are a rock band. Congratulations. So
Join
is
the pile.
every other jerk with a guitar and a friend and a basement on the planet. Like, just come on. Who are you? Rock band. Out of the city. What do you care about? It's like, well, I care about this, but that's not part of it. But it is.
We are like the new Blink-182.
No. That's so wrong.
It's yeah, and it's about, like you said, define your brand.
Yeah.
Who are you and all that kind of stuff.
That's the thing, though, is that I think it's so crazy too because I just don't want it to sound like we're talking shit about artists, because artists are amazing. You come up with this incredible music and it's so good. But then it's like that's where the buck stops there, and it's just like you can put so much heart and soul and beauty into the instrumentation, the lyrics, everything about your music, and then not even be able to describe who you are.
Yeah.
But even that in itself, if you're so confused about who you are, that's something that's relatable. It's just, I don't even know who the hell I am. Talk about that.
Yeah.
People will relate to it.
Exactly. Like, for example, like, I think what we're trying to say is like musicians are amazing musicians, but they're terrible business people.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because they shouldn't be, like, there's people who are out there to help them do that. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't have a manager. Sometimes you can't afford it. Sometimes, you know, it's just you and your 4 buddies in a band, right?
In which case you should just watch every single episode of Gary V, Daily V.
Yeah.
Every single day.
And you should
Get
listen to every episode of the Offstage Podcast.
Yeah, that too. I'll just quote Gary V for you guys. It's all good. We'll
that thing.
That thing, yeah.
So yeah, it just blows me away. And I know right now we're just kind of riffing and all that. And we do want to get into the nitty-gritty and talk about specific topics. We might have an episode about like Spotify playlists. We might have an episode about live gigs, how to make a gig more interesting. We might have an episode about like how to promote a new single or interesting ways to promote a new single, how to do live streaming. And like we'll get into all those topics into a more like dedicated kind of way. But I like this kind of just to introduce people to our way of thinking and where we stand, basically. Yeah. And just tell them, hey, I think this is kind of cool. I think this is kind of sucky. And I'm just getting stuff out of my system here. Like, saying, hey bands, please stop doing this. Because I've seen bands that have been around for like literally years, 5-7 years, and they still, they have that drive, they have that passion. The music is amazing, and they want to grow, they want to be bigger. As much as they say that they don't care, they care. And they only bring people to a local show, your hometown show, which should be the one that sells out, right?
Exactly.
Should be the one that packs up.
Exactly.
And it's not the music. The music is great. It's the tactics behind it.
A lot of the times it's not about the music. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be an interesting experience that that people will walk away remembering. And again, not remembering it because, I've seen bands who have gone way in the opposite end where they just wear like ridiculous costumes and just do really crazy things. And it's just like, you still get that feeling that you tried so hard to do something different, but I'm not going to remember this because I don't understand what the hell it is that you're trying to do. It's not about the music. And this is the thing too, is there's nothing wrong with doing traditional things, booking regular shows, promoting in regular ways. There is a standard baseline, but it's about looking at it and figuring out what else you can do.
If that's all you do, that's it.
And it can you can start off at the smallest level of just finding a way to make sure that everybody who does show up that night, even if it's just 10 people, make them remember that night. It could be as simple as making sure you walk up to every single person. Hi, how are you? How was your night? How's your week been? That's not a crazy marketing idea.
What do you do?
But most people don't think about doing that kind of stuff,
And it's about like finding out what makes you unique. I think a great example is burger shops. I know it sounds random. But
I love burgers. I want a burger now.
But like, if you think about it, a burger is the simplest thing on earth. What's a burger? Bun, meat, lettuce, tomato, some sauces. There you go, and fries. But there's a lot of like burger shops out there that they're all selling the same product. They're all selling you burgers, but they do it in such a unique way. Like, for example, think about Five Guys. What's their thing? That you get fries and they literally fill up the bag with fries, like so many fries that you're like, what do I do with this? And they're like Cajun fries and they're delicious and it's amazing. But they're the only ones that do that. Then you have stuff like, I don't know, like Burger Priest, where they have like this secret menu where you can get like 3-4 patties in the same burger, and it's totally disgusting and like,
you're making me hungry.
But at the end of the day, they're all just fucking burger shops.
Yeah.
But why are all like, for example, why are all punk bands the same? Why don't they have that extra something? Why don't, fill your bag with potatoes is what I'm trying to say. Right?
Can that be our show tagline? Fill your damn bag with potatoes. That's it. That's the advice.
Fill the bag with. We're gonna go to a show one day where they're giving out bags of potato fries. Being like, guys, we did it.
The next time a band comes up to me and says, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I tried. This is a great song. I love it. I believe in it, but it's just not working. And I'm just going to say, you got to fill your bag with potatoes, man.
Yeah,
just right to the top. And they're going to be like, what? And I'm like, I told you. I got to, no more. I'm going to charge you on the hour for anything more than that.
I said it. Potatoes, bags. That's all you need.
Fill the bag with potatoes, yeah.
But yeah, it's like finding that extra something that doesn't make you just another burger shop in this example, right? Like, what is your edge? What is your thing, right? And stick to it. What's your theme and what makes you exciting? What makes you an exciting person to talk to or to go see or band to talk to, right? And I see a lot of bands doing a great job. You know, I've seen bands that, for example, for one of their shows, so this is what they did. They had an EP coming up that they had recorded, and they had a EP release party going on the same day that EP was coming up. So what they did is they went out on the street somewhere in downtown Toronto. They found this random ass wall, and they graffitied the wall with their band name and some art. And they took a picture of it, and that was the cover art of the EP. But they said, if you find this graffiti and take a picture with it and post it on Instagram, you get into the show for free, and you get a copy of the EP as well. And then Instagram was like, they were retweeting and sharing and screenshotting and everything. Like, Instagram was getting flooded with pictures of all of their friends posting in front of the graffiti. And that's literally people talking and posting about your band just because. And like, how do you get to do those things, right? And it's like, if you're just saying, listen to my song online, come to my show, that doesn't happen. That organic kind of viral growth doesn't happen. So it's like thinking about those kind of things. And then they made that graffiti the cover of the EP, so now that people who took the picture like associate the memories of the kind of the hunt for the graffiti, because they only said the intersection. They didn't tell you where the graffiti actually was. So you have to show up to the intersection and be like, okay, where's an alley around here, and kind of look for it.
Yeah,
it was like a little treasure hunt too.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that.
So it made it pretty exciting. And those are the kind of ideas that I look and I'm like, all right, write that one down.
Yeah.
Even if it comes from a band, or it comes from like this guy in the artist alley at a Smash Bros. Tournament, or it comes from like an Instagram model that has 3 million followers somehow. Like, what did she do to gain 3 million followers? Because there's like a million hot people out there. Why does she have the 3 million followers? What did she do?
Yeah.
What is she posting about? How does she get her audience engaged, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's so true. Oh, I was going to say something and I totally forget now. We're talking about the graffiti and the awesomeness and we're going to do a roll up the rim break.
Yeah, roll up the rim break. Sponsored by...
this podcast is not sponsored by Tim Hortons.
Sponsored by...
I want a coffee! Woohoo! Yeah.
I thought you were going to say a car. I was about to have like...
Dude, if I actually won a car... I'd be gone. I'd be like, this podcast is over.
See you later.
Claim
you drive
my
off
car.
in your car.
Yeah, the car just materializes in the living room. Could you imagine?
You roll it up and you hear outside honk honk.
Genius.
Miss Markov. The cop actually has like a GPS tracker or some shit like that.
Oh my god. That's awesome. I'm 2 for 3. And it's only day 2 of Roll Up the Rim.
Idea. Do a roll up the rim with your EP. Every EP has like a little thing that you can roll up.
That's amazing.
And it has prizes in it. Either a free shirt or free entrance to shows for life.
Oh my god. Could you imagine?
Shit like that. And then you get people to buy your EP and you roll up the rim of the EP.
I'm stealing that.
I don't even know if I'm going to publish this idea.
I was going to say don't.
Should I edit this one out? No, you know what? I'll give you guys a freebie. I'll give you a freebie.
Yeah.
Roll up the rim of the EP.
Yeah, because you know several bands could do that, and I would still that would motivate me to actually buy a CD because I don't own a CD player. I don't own a laptop that plays CDs.
And like if you're a musician,
but I would buy it.
Yeah, you just do it. And like you should be printing your EPs with like a free download key or like just listening to it on Spotify or
guaranteed,
like
yeah.
Because people will listen to it on Spotify, but if you get into buy the EP, you're making money off of it. Right? You're monetizing your music, and just roll up the rim of your EP or album or whatever single.
Oh, that's so smart.
Huh. And see, and that had nothing to do with music. Like roll up the rim has nothing to do with music. And but yeah, thanks Timmy's for that freebie.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Have we already been recording for 40 minutes?
Yes.
Wow, time flies.
It's you know when time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of wrap it up a little bit?
Yeah, where do you want to go from this?
How do we call it a pilot? I think 40 minutes for a pilot is okay. I think between 40 and an hour, it's fine. And this one's pretty free form.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen to me for an hour. I remember talking at Kismet. I'm like, how long has it been? 15 minutes? Oh my god!
Can somebody tell her to shut up?
I'm sick of myself already. You know what? Actually, here's a good. shout outs to Kismet, since we've mentioned them like twice already in this podcast.
Kismet?
Yeah. Well, I just want to talk a little bit more about Kismet. Allison is awesome. And she's another really great example of solid branding and actually caring about her audience. Not only does she curate and organize this event, that she's so consistent that it's been growing like crazy, because I remember going to the first ones, a year and a half ago now, and there would be 6, 8, 9, sometimes 2 or 3 people there. And now it's like frequently she's had to change rooms because there's just so many people. She's getting bigger and bigger speakers. And she does little things where it's like, she'll bring like banana bread and muffins.
Yeah, she makes her own banana bread, which is first of all delicious.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's so great.
It's just terrible. Like my diet is just down the hole every single time.
She messaged me last time. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the last one, but she was like, "I'm gonna make banana bread." It's like, yes.
That's the first one I've missed in a while too. Damn it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's awesome. But the thing is, this is the crazy part, is that you would think in a lot of other industry meetups do this. But, and it's funny because a band that I work with just did this too, is that you would think that you have to promote the shit out of this stuff. But she's done such a damn good job at curating an audience for Kismet. And it's not the same people who show up every time. Because I remember when I spoke 2 months after you, I asked who was here for Martin's talk. And like nobody raised their hand. But the room was just as full as it was when you spoke. So there's a huge group of people, and not the same 25, but a different 25, 30, 40 people will show up. And she doesn't even post about it half the time. Yeah, she doesn't tell anybody that it's happening.
And then like people just show up because it's word of mouth. The event itself is so good, and she has really good energy, and she makes all these like treats for everyone. You feel like you're in a little bit of a party more than it's like a little get together rather than a preachy. Even though maybe my talk was a little bit preachy, but
your talk was amazing.
Yours was really good. It's fun to talk, dude. It's fun to like. I like motivating. I always thought that eventually down the road I could do some motivational speaking, because I like motivating people to do better. I like being like, you're gonna kill it, like do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny though. Like that's even a good example as well of branding and like understanding the principle but not the tactic. Because after I saw like you had everything prepared, you had notes, you had this incredible PowerPoint presentation, like you were just bang on. It was a presentation beginning to end. So it inspired me. And then when I asked Allison to speak at the next one so that it would be more of a follow-up to what you talked about, I was just like, man, now I gotta make notes, and I gotta make a PowerPoint presentation, and I gotta speak. And I got more and more nervous as the time approached, where I was just like, I just remember a week before the talk, I'm sitting there in front of my blank computer screen, and I was just like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? Like I can't, oh my God, I gotta do a perfect PowerPoint presentation. Like I didn't want to show you up, but I wanted to like have the same effect that you had. And then I stopped and I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm talking to people about the same thing that I sit down with a band and talk one-on-one with. I have never needed a fucking PowerPoint presentation in order to get my point across, which is why all of a sudden I just threw everything out the window, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to get up there and talk, because it was my way of taking what you did that I found so effective, and I went down the wrong path thinking that I had to copy the way you did it in order to have the same effect, until I realized, wait a minute, I can't hide behind this tactic, because that's not who I really am and how I'm going to express myself. Like you did a great job expressing things the way you do, organized, visual, and I'm just like, I'm just going to get up there and speak from the heart. Like this is the way I do things, and everyone's different in that way.
Because it's exactly like what bands do. They look at other bands and they're like, oh, I want to do that. Yeah. Like I want to do this. I want to do like all this stuff that the bands are doing. And it's like, don't do what you want to do, in the sense like do what makes you, like what sets you apart. Fill that bag with potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. Like, because like instead of being like, I'm gonna do what you liked, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like what you liked about my presentation is that it was unique and it was my style, and it came off as, oh, that was totally Martin doing his thing.
Yeah.
His thing. And then like, I want to do that too, but you didn't want to do what I did. You wanted to do something that, you know what I mean? You wanted to do something that was also your style. Like that's like, whoever sat there, whoever was at that presentation was like, oh, that's how Vanessa deals with artists. Like that's who she is.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that, and it was a lesson for me, and that's the thing too, is that everything that I talk about, and I can tell that you do this too, especially with Stranded Fest, the things that you talk about, you're not just like talking at people, like a rich person will tell a poor person how to live their life. It's like, no. we speak from experience. So it was a huge lesson for me to realize, to see clearly that when I looked at what you did, I had to not look at how you did things, but what did I like about it? I liked the effect that it had on me. So when bands are like, oh, I really like how that band did that, so I'm going to do that. It's like, no, don't copy what that band did. Think about why you liked it. What was it about it that you liked? And then find your own way to generate the same response from people. You know, and that's where it just goes down to thinking about the reaction that you want people to have, and looking at things, you know, from a more abstract perspective, or looking behind the curtain of, well, why was that so effective? You know, if this band did this, it's because they have this, and this kind of skill or type of personality. So how can I take my skill and my personality and create the same effect without actually doing the exact same thing?
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, if the idea you came up with and applied doesn't work, fuck it. Try something else.
Well, how are you supposed to get good? Yeah.
Make thousands of mistakes until you get it right, because a lot of bands, we're all fighting for the same piece of the pie, right?
Yeah.
So everyone has to be like, well, I don't like to say that, because we should actually, I think like bands should build each other up rather than try to tear each other down.
For sure.
But at the same time, you gotta be as unique as you can, and you know, there's some, you just gotta make sure that you're trying everything on your plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, I think it is.
You're kind of, you know, you gotta think outside of the proverbial box. So I do want to say though, before we wrap it up, that you should definitely send us your questions. We want to kind of have like a little question segment on this show, probably halfway or at the end of every show. So we'll be creating a lot of social media channels, which will be linked everywhere. If you're listening to this, whatever you're listening to it, we'll probably link in a Facebook page or on Instagram or whatever. Follow us there. Our DMs are open, so you can slide right in and send us your burning questions. So if you have topic ideas, like, oh guys, I really want you to talk about Spotify playlists, for example. And you know, if it gains traction, we might do that. And you know, just shoot us with your questions, and we'll sort through them. Maybe do some lightning runs for a few ones, and then the ones that really trigger our creativity, we might like go longer for. So make sure you do that. Send us your questions. Anything you would like to kind of wrap up? Do some shout outs? Okay, so
no, you can't put me on the spot. Shout outs. I already did. I think the biggest shout out was to Kismet, because she came up quite a bit. So yeah, shout outs to Kismet. They're cool.
All right.
And shout outs to Martin for this awesome idea.
Well, shout outs to you for joining in and actually taking all the trip to my place, which is really far out of the way just to record.
The worst.
All right, so hated it.
It was terrible.
All right, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast in whichever platform you're using to listen to this podcast. Follow us on social media. Send us your questions. We'll see you on the next episode. And now enjoy a little bit of music of whatever music I picked to play at the end of the podcast. Bye.
Bye.